The silence of this village, does it not chill you as it does me? Uli asks. She's seated in her home tucked away in the back corner of Ordon Village. Her son Colin is nowhere to be seen. Her husband, Russell the swordsman, lays on a couch next to her, bloodied and bruised. He sleeps uneasily, muttering, "Monsters, be gone." "While you were gone, we were set upon by evil creatures," Uli explains. "I suppose you've already heard, but the children, and poor Ilya, they were taken." For Uli, there is one bright spot in the tragedy that befell her home. Link, the beloved ranch hand, and possible romantic interest for Ilya, has returned. "We are all worried that perhaps you were taken as well." She urges Link to visit the rest of the village. The sadness is everywhere. Jaggle, the farmer and craftsman, merely stares at his tools. His wife, Purgy, cries alone in their house, unable to form a full sentence. Hanch, a man who appears to be beaten down on the best of days, stands forlorn on a pillar of stone overlooking the pond. "Those poor children," he says. "They were taken by monsters. I'd forgotten how quiet the village is without them." His wife, Sarah, sits slumped behind the counter of her shop. She appears about to cry until she sees Link. "I hesitate to ask this, but I must," she says to the hero. "Please, save the children." This is Legendary Adventures, a Legend of Zelda playthrough podcast. This week we're purging the Twilight from Eldin Province, battling on horseback, testing our strength in the sumo ring, and confronting the darkness locked away in the Goron Mines. The spirit Faron directed Link and his shadowy companion Midna to Eldin Province. Much like Faron Province before it, it's covered by a veil of twilight. Link ventures towards the Wall of Darkness. The spirits want Link to obtain a dark power to use it against the King of Twilight, who has invaded the Kingdom of Hyrule. Midna is also after that dark power. Her reasons for seeking it are not entirely clear. She is using Link to get what she wants, but to what end? A man dressed in a white tank top and white shorts with a tall red hat and a red banner strapped to his back quickly runs up to Link. His appearance should be familiar to fans of Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and maybe even The Wind Waker. This is the Postman. His appearance is based on the Postman from Majora's Mask, who in turn was a double of Ocarina of Time's Running Man. The Postman warns Link not to go any further because a wall of darkness is ahead. He also gives him a letter and hums a little fanfare as he does. Link can read the letters that he receives whenever he pleases. They generally contain hints towards the main quest, though some are focused on side quests and there are just a few there for character building purposes. This letter says the postman will approach Link from time to time. It urges him not to run away when he does, not that we can. The appearances of the postman on the overworld are always presented in cutscenes. Director Eiji Aonuma explained how the postman came to be in Twilight Princess in an interview with Nintendo Dream in 2007. It was translated and posted on ZeldaDungeon.net. He said, "In The Wind Waker, we introduced the letter system, so we thought of guiding Link via mail in this game too. Midna tells you many things in order for her to achieve her own goal, but we thought the guidance of people living in Hyrule was important too. You run into him very frequently when you are in Hyrule Field, so I hope you look forward to meeting him in Hyrule Field right after clearing a dungeon." Before we move on, I should mention the overworld theme. It's a variation of what I call Link's Courage theme. Composer Toru Minegishi views it as a medley of what he calls the main theme and the advantageous theme. On the overworld, the version that we hear is fast and driving, with pulsing strings, bass, and militaristic drums. The A section, or main theme section, is played on clarinet while on foot. Horns take over while on horseback. Players won't have a horse at this point, but here's what it sounds like. The B section, or advantageous theme, is played by a number of instruments, from what sounds like a bassoon to flute, trumpet, clarinet, and they're constantly trading off the melody. It keeps things dynamic and moving. Again, players won't have a horse at this point, but it is worth noting that there is a C section to this melody. It's added to the overworld theme while on horseback. Minagishi described it as majestic. There's also a quick quote of the original Legend of Zelda overworld theme worked into the end of this section. If it's not clear already, the overworld music of Twilight Princess is dynamic. The melody will drop out entirely if the player stands still on the overworld. And it also shifts to a more intense theme whenever enemies are near. And it doesn't end there. There's an alternate version of the theme that only plays at night. It features spare dramatic drums, strings, and a synth female vocal providing a ghostly rendition of the main theme. This is, in my opinion, one of the best overworld themes in the series. As Link approaches the Wall of Darkness at the edge of Eldin Province, Midna reminds him that he will be transformed into a wolf again, and will not change back for some time. Moving closer to the dark wall, symbols appear, drawn in glowing orange lines. Midna asks Link if he wants her to bring him into the Twilight. We of course say yes. Link is pulled in through the wall and again becomes a wolf. The first act of Twilight Princess moves in starts and fits. I feel the Twilight segments where players take control of Wolf Link are a slog. The tutorials continue as players are introduced to a new ability. Not far up the road, Link finds a wooden sword. We're given the option to sniff it and to learn a new scent. As Link sniffs it, he sees flashes of the missing children, Tallow, Mallow, Beth, and Colin. After learning the scent, Midna encourages Link to use his senses with the X button. This is no less than the 4th time that Midna has told Link that he can activate his wolf senses with the X button. This time can perhaps be forgiven, because it's introducing a new concept of following a scent, which is visualized as a trail of mist. It will lead Link right to the children. Blocking the path, however, are 3 shadow beasts. When we take out all 3 at the same time, another portal appears in the sky. The beasts were standing on the edge of a gorge. A wooden archway suggests a bridge, but there is no bridge to be found. Midna suggests that the shadow beasts have stolen it. This serves as a tutorial for the fast travel system of the game. The portals that appear in the sky when shadow beasts are defeated are fast travel points. When in wolf form, Midna can transport Link between them. This is also the introduction of a gameplay concept that we'll revisit just a few times, involving using Midna and warp points to transport objects. Players need to remember they saw the bridge standing vertically inside the North Faron Woods, near the Forest Temple. We warp to the woods, then call Midna when near the bridge, then warp it back to Kakariko Gorge. Midna teleports Link and the bridge together. Once the bridge is back in place, we can head for the village that shares its name with the gorge. We find the entrance is locked. A thick iron gate with blood smeared over it prevents people from entering or exiting. But we aren't a person anymore. Using Link's dig ability, we slip under the gate and enter the village. Eldin Spring is just inside the village at the south entrance. 3 shadow beasts prowl around it. This time, one beast keeps its distance from the others. We need to take out the distant beast first, and then take out the other 2 at the same time to create the portal to Kakariko Village. As soon as the beasts are gone, the spirit, Eldin, calls to Link. We approach and are once again given a vessel of light, to gather the tears of light held by 16 or 12, depending on the version, shadow insects. I mentioned last week Aonuma said they introduced these shadow insect searching segments as a way to introduce dungeon-like aspects to the overworld. I didn't feel the first hunt in Faron Woods achieved that goal. I will say the second segment manages it better. It's more complicated with some bugs now hidden indoors. Again, I don't really care for these segments, but there are a few highlights here. Immediately to the north of the spring is a worn structure, perhaps made of stone or adobe. It has designs painted across the facade that are worn and fading. A bell sits atop it, hung from a wooden scaffold and exposed to the elements. A once enclosed second floor now stands open on one side. Some past damage to the building was never repaired. Using Binda's jump ability, we climb up to the second floor, then fall through a poorly constructed patch in the center of the roof in order to enter the building. Inside, Link finds the spirits of 7 people. The kidnapped children of Ordon huddle around a man dressed in a long robe. He has long black hair and a square jaw. His name is Renato. He's the shaman of Kakariko Village. Seated next to him is his daughter Luda. She appears to be around 10 years old with chin-length hair. She wears a brown vest over a white shirt. Another man is pressed up against the front window. He's balding and pot-bellied. A welding mask sits atop his head. His name is Barnes. He's anxious, watching for black monsters roaming the village. He apparently attempted to fight the creatures with bombs to no avail. Renato tries to reassure the children they are safe. Barnes then tells a strange story. He claims the monsters eat people, but also says a woman who ran a general store in town was attacked by one of the Twilight creatures. A group of people from the village apparently went to rescue her, but when they arrived, the woman was gone, and 2 monsters were inside the store. It's unclear what's really going on here, but it seems that rather than eating people like Barnes suggested earlier, the Twilight creatures instead transform beings from the light world into Twilight creatures like themselves. Barnes is clearly scaring the children. Renato interrupts him as Beth bursts into tears. Barnes asks if there's another room, someplace they can go to hide. Renato mentions there is a cellar which is opened by lighting all the candles which line the walls of the room. His daughter Luda, however, warns against opening it, saying she saw large insects similar to the shadow beast outside in the cellar. Beth continues to cry. Colin tries to comfort her, saying Link will come to their rescue. A piano rendition of Link's Courage theme begins to play. Despite Colin's confidence in Link, the others remain doubtful. Armed with information about how to open the cellar, we get to work. There's a stick we can pick up and light on fire in the room. The candles, as mentioned, line the walls. There's an upper walkway which we can use to reach the candle, but there are gaps in the walkway where each candle is. But it is a pretty simple process of circling the room and auto-jumping to light the candles. A large statue of an owl in the center of the room moves aside, granting access to the cellar. Inside, we clear out the bugs. Kakariko Village sits at the bottom of a canyon in this game. Its buildings line the canyon walls, with a single main road passing in between them. There are a couple pathways up the canyon walls, behind the buildings, allowing us to access higher elevations. We use the pathway opposite of Renato's house to reach the second floor entrance of a hotel near the center of town. We enter in the kitchen, which has a vaulted ceiling. A shadow insect has lodged itself inside the smoke vent of the stove. We use a torch on the wall to light the stick on fire. Then we light a fire in the oven in order to drive it out. On the opposite side of the canyon, we stand on a shed to break through a window and enter the bomb shop at the end of the row of buildings. We go through the bomb shop to reach the canyon wall above it. While on the path, we see an electric spark of the shadow insect dart into a nearby building. There's a hole that we can crawl through in order to enter. Again, we find the shadow insect inside a stove. There's a convenient fire burning in the corner of the building, despite the entire place being plastered with signs warning that no flames should be lit. When we light the stove, the shadow insect is covered with flames and wildly flies around, lighting the entire building on fire. Midna quickly abandons Link to make a quick exit. We follow, and the building explodes, leaving behind 3 tiers of light. That's it as far as the real highlights of this bug collecting go. I should mention that we scale Death Mountain to get the final bugs. As with Ocarina of Time, Kakariko Village is adjacent to the mountain home of the Gorons. We learn from some Goron spirits that they're keeping humans away, though the reason is unclear. The most noteworthy things on the mountain at this point, however, do not directly relate to the Tears of Light collecting quest. About halfway up the mountain trail, we come across our first Howling Stone. Remember, the hero's shade told players to seek these out in order to learn his hidden skills. It's a stone statue which stands about a head taller than Wolf Link when he sits. There's a hole through the center. A Sheikah eye design, first seen in Ocarina of Time, surrounds the hole. As the wind passes through the hole, the notes of a song can be made out. Link is tasked with learning the tune, then howling it back to the stone. He can howl at 3 pitches, an upper pitch, a middle pitch, and a lower. Players move between the pitches with the joystick, and they hold the A button to determine the duration of each tone. When Link successfully howls the tune, he's transported back to a mystical plane. He stands atop a grassy cliff edge which floats in the air attached to nothing. The golden wolf with a single red eye, the hero's shade, is on a similar cliff edge across from him. Some features from Hyrule can be made out through the fog below them. Behind Link is the bizarrely shaped Eldin volcano. It's craggy, broken, and worn. A scar of lava sits just below the edge of the caldera. Behind the golden wolf is the forests of Faron and Ordona. The 2 wolves howl the tune that Link just learned. Longtime players should recognize it. It's the Song of Healing from Majora's Mask. The Golden Wolf tasks Link with finding him. It won't be too hard because his location is immediately marked on Link's map. He's in Ordon Spring. The last thing worth mentioning, we defeat another group of shadow beasts at the end of the Death Mountain Trail, just outside the Goron village, to open another fast travel point. Once all the bugs are defeated and the tears are gathered, light returns to the land. Link returns to his human form, Midna returns to her shadow form, and the game returns to being interesting. That is, after a bit of story setup. The spirit Eldin appears. Eldin resembles a giant owl. It tells Link the dark power he seeks is held by the Gorons on Death Mountain. It commands Link to cleanse these sacred grounds of the Gorons and then departs. From the building near the spring, Colin notices Link. Beth and Tallow callously push him to the ground in their excitement over Link's presence. But it was Colin's faith that was rewarded. Renato, Luda, and Barnes follow the kids outside. Renato introduces himself and his daughter. Barnes is wisely ignored. It's explained that the monsters kidnapped the kids and left them to die. They were found by Renato, who took them in and is caring for them. Then the darkness fell on the village. Renato notes the recent nightmarish troubles that befell them seemed to coincide with the Gorons suddenly becoming hostile to the humans and denying access to their minds. He wonders if there is a darkness within the minds that has caused it all. We need no more hints. We head towards Death Mountain. We start our ascent by climbing a netting to scale the cliff face, which is held in place by massive steel girders. Immediately, we are confronted by a Goron, who lets us know that the Goron elders have said not to allow any humans to pass. The Goron rolls towards Link, who takes his goat-throwing stance, but is sent tumbling off the cliff. The Goron proclaims that Link's strength is no match for the strength of a Goron. And considering that Link was unable to keep his footing, we should know that he's right. We leave the mountain and immediately run into Renato. He tells us the Gorons will only recognize strength, and that the only human he's ever known to go toe-to-toe with a Goron is Ordon's mayor, Bo. If it wasn't clear already, Twilight Princess is a very strictly structured game. Its only rival in terms of being a tightly structured traditional open-world Zelda at this point is the Minish Cap. If players had poked around before heading up the mountain, they would find that they cannot exit the village. Gates at the canyon entrances on either side really do keep people in or out. We know we need to leave the village, however, and after attempting to go up the mountain, we have now satisfied a hard story gate on leaving the village. Suddenly, Link's horse appears. 2 Boblins are on its back, but they fall off as the horse makes a mad dash towards Kakariko village. Link has to leap out of the way to avoid being trampled. He then jumps onto the horse's back, and we take part in the Zelda series' first ever QuickTime event. By that I mean there are on-screen inputs that we must match in order to advance. In this case, we need to tilt the joystick in an indicated direction a couple times, then press A when prompted to reclaim the horse. Midna appears and compliments Link on his skills as a horse wrangler. Then she tells him to get a move on back towards Ordon. Thanks, Midna. I was just about to do that before you interrupted me. So, we start towards Ordon. Shortly after we exit Kakariko and start on the path, we are stopped by the postman. The letter he delivers is from Uku, letting us know that she's headed for a new location, the next dungeon, obviously. Once the postman leaves, we can make our way to Ordon without any further interruption. The moment Mayor Bo sees Link, he calls out and quickly invites him inside so he can catch him up on what's happened. Prior to this point, the mayor's home was locked. We'll soon learn why. The mayor is pleased to hear the kids are safe in Kakariko. He mentions Renato is an old friend of his. He's disappointed to learn that Link has not yet found his daughter, Ilia, but he knows that he must help. Link does not speak, but nonetheless still explains his need to match the strength of the Gorons. Bo promises to teach Link how he was able to defeat the Gorons in a contest of strength, but he swears him to secrecy. He must not tell anyone what the secret is. We agree to his terms, and Mayor Bo escorts Link to the back room of his home. The room is a sumo wrestling ring. Bo explains the Gorons test their strength in sumo contests. He explains the rules and says the basics are the same as stopping and throwing goats. As Eiji Aonuma said, Twilight Princess is a game about throwing goats from the beginning to the end. In his 2007 interview with the Nintendo Dream, Aonuma explained the idea behind including elements like sumo wrestling in the game. He said, "The game's aimed at an older audience. So this mischievous physical image of Link suggests that he trusts his physical strength because he grew up in the country." He continued, "If it hadn't been like that, he couldn't have grown up to become a young man throwing goats and living in the middle of nature. Originally, Link's been portrayed as a neutral image, but in this game I think we firmly reflect a manly, strong image." Aonuma also joked that female fans would have an appreciation of the sumo scene. That's because as Mayor Bo and Link face off, they have a change of clothes. The mayor is dressed like a traditional sumo wrestler. Link has removed his tunic, hat, and boots. He's shirtless. Aonuma said some of the women on the staff worked extra hard to make Link look good during this scene. When we were working on that half-naked Link, the women on the staff were saying things like, "That's wrong," or "The light exposure's not right." They had some pretty strict criticism, he said. Then both he and the interviewer burst out laughing. We need to defeat Mayor Bo in 2 rounds of sumo wrestling. The first is a practice round so players can get used to the controls. They can circle their opponent with the joystick, slap with B, and push with A. I had no problem with the first match, and I managed to push the mayor from the ring relatively quickly during my second match on the HD version. On the GameCube, however, it took me multiple rounds to become victorious. I'm not sure why I had a more difficult time on GameCube. Once we defeat the mayor 2 times, he reveals the true secret to defeating the Gorons. Strength and skill at sumo wrestling alone won't do it. After all, the Gorons are made out of rock. The mayor's true secret is contained within a chest. We open it and receive the iron boots. That's right, the mayor cheats. At this time, we have a choice to go through the village and let everyone know that the children are safe. It's entirely optional, but each villager will thank Link and be happy. I think the only one truly worth noting is Uli, but only because of her husband Russell. Last time we saw him, Russell was laid up on a couch, badly hurt. When we return to their house this time, he's nowhere to be seen. But Uli is cheered by the good news. Before heading back to Kakariko, I made a point to stop at Ordon Spring. You'll recall that this is where the hero Shade is waiting for Link. Link is once again transported to another dimension. The Shade tests him on the previous skill he taught before teaching a new one. The second skill is the shield attack. Link can hit an enemy with his shield to break an enemy's defense. He can also knock some enemy attacks back at them. New skill learned, we head back to Kakariko. In Kakariko Village, Talo and Beth stand in the middle of the road, just outside Renato's house. Suddenly, they hear something. Thundering hooves. King Bulblin comes riding into town on the back of his massive boar called a Bulbos. 2 smaller Bulbos are on either side of him, each carrying 2 Bulblins. Talo turns to run. Beth is frozen in fear. She stands in place, unable to move. Colin sees the approaching monsters and turns to go inside, but then notices Beth. Though the other kids regularly bully Colin, he gathers his courage and does the right thing, pushing Beth out of the way of the approaching monsters and stands his ground. Moments later, Barnes bursts out of his shop at the edge of town and finds himself face to face with King Boblin. The king holds Colin's limp body by his side. He turns towards Barnes and raises the eye guard of his helmet. Barnes lowers his welding mask. Suddenly, Link appears. The king holds Colin above his head to taunt the hero, then quickly turns and exits town. Horseback battles were the first thing developed for Twilight Princess. Perhaps that explains why this is so fun. This is a real highlight of the game. King Boblin has Colin tied to the top of a mast, which in turn is strapped to his saddle. The king rides across the field of Upper Eldin, jumping fences and doing his best to keep away from Link. He uses a horn to summon his minion Swarm and attempt to take Link out. We need to properly manage Link's horse's spurs in order to catch up to King Boblin in order to land hits with the sword. With each hit, a piece of his armor falls off. When his helmet flies off, the first round of the fight ends. The king rides on to Eldin Bridge, a great structure made out of stone, worn with age. Link follows. Wooden fences have been set up on either side of the bridge. A Boblin shoots a flaming arrow at the fence and sets it ablaze. There is no running. King Boblin then challenges Link to a sort of joust. Link and the king ride at each other. I find the best strategy is to ride to one side of the bridge, then quickly juke around the king and land a hit with a sword. It's not always the easiest thing to do. Sometimes I miss, sometimes I get knocked off myself. But after 2 hits, King Boblin goes tumbling off the bridge, falling into the river below. As heroic music swells, Link strikes a heroic pose in front of the Veil of Twilight. Moments later, Colin awakes to find Link looking down at him and smiling. They are back near Eldin Spring. Tallow, Mallow, Beth, Renato, and Luda crowd around. Colin is happy to see that everyone is okay. He apologizes to Beth for pushing her, but of course she isn't mad. He saved her. "I think I finally understand," Colin says. His dad told him to be strong like Link. He was talking about being brave. Colin encourages Link to help the Gorons, like he helped him. Then, he passes out. And Tallow, the biggest bully of the group, tries to carry Colin to bed. He can't, of course. Renato then carries Colin away. Honestly, it's a pretty schmaltzy scene. And that's the point. In his 2007 Nintendo Dream interview, Aonuma explained, "Sometimes, when you progress in the game, you forget why you're out on an adventure. We had the frightened kids in Kakariko Village to boost the player's motivation. Wolf Link made an effort to return light to that village, you sigh relieved, and just when you thought a dungeon was next, Colin is kidnapped again. Then you save him right after a horse fight and he asks you to help the Gorons. Your motivation increases." He continued, "Colin was created by a scriptwriter of the Zelda series, Mitsuhiro Takano. He thought of the sub-story of Colin, a weak boy that grew up admiring Link. He really wanted to include a scene where Colin gets caught for saving Beth, so that's how the scene was developed. Mr. Takano likes to make people cry." He and the interviewer then laughed. Catty-corner to Renato's house, and next to a pathway that leads up the canyon wall, sits a shop. It was empty when Link first arrived in Kakariko Village. Now there are posters plastered to the exterior. They all feature a portrait of Mallow on them. Mallow is a toddler. He can't even see over the counter, but he's the shop owner all the same. "I decided to take on this unmanned shop," he explains. "Buy something," he urges. "It helps the whole village when you do." Currently, Mallow carries 2 types of shield. A wooden shield and a Hylian shield, along with red potion. Twilight Princess takes a page from Ocarina of Time and includes an equipment system. It's streamlined and simplified from the Ocarina of Time system. Boots are no longer included on the equipment menu. They are now an item just like in the Wind Waker. Link will only ever have 2 swords to choose from, and I suspect 99% of players will keep the Master Sword equipped once they obtain it. I imagine the vast majority of players will also only change their shield once after getting the Hylian shield as well. I suspect most people only use this menu to swap out armor. The Hylian shield is of course preferable because it's fireproof, meaning players will not accidentally lose it. I should mention the music of Kakariko Village. It's not just a new rendition of the classic village theme, but it's a new tune entirely. It does begin with a clear quote of the A Link to the Past Kakariko Village theme. There's a rattling percussion included in that quote that gives the impression of a passing train. There is no train in this world, but it adds to the Western movie atmosphere, and the nods that are included throughout Twilight Princess. The theme itself has a steady, pulsing rhythm. The melody on flute is lovely. It's melancholy, yet hopeful. The steady rhythm provided by the horns suggests a resilience in the face of adversity. It's perfect for a hard-hit town like Kakariko that continues onward all the same. This may be my favorite version of the Kakariko Village theme in the entire series. And that's saying something when you have not only the incredible original, but the Wind Waker's amazing upbeat arrangement from Windfall Island. We return to Death Mountain with the iron boots ready. What follows is a ridiculously fun sequence as we climb up the mountain. The Gorons will roll towards Link. He just needs to equip the boots and then use his goat tossing skills to toss the Gorons aside. I should mention the music of Death Mountain. It's a new arrangement of the classic Goron theme, first introduced in Ocarina of Time. It strips away the quirkiness of the theme from that first game, and replaces it with a regalness, or at least a dignity, that's expressed through brass instrumentation. As a reminder, here's how the theme sounded in Ocarina of Time. And here it is in Twilight Princess. When we reach the end of the road at Goron City proper, the way we progress up the mountain changes. As we approach, fiery boulders begin to rain out of the sky. In a cutscene, we are then shown a Goron curling up into a ball, so another Goron can stand on its back and then be launched into the air when the other Goron uncurls. This allows the Goron that was flung into the air to reach a higher level. This is our hint on what to do. The village structure itself is laid out vertically with no vines, ladders, or netting to climb up. We must engage the Gorons in combat. We need to hit a Goron during an opening in its defenses to make it curl up into a ball so we can climb up on its back. Invariably, when I play, I engage in a fight with a Goron, make it curl up, climb onto its back, only for a cutscene to begin showing a massive pillar of rock falling from the sky. It lodges itself into the ground where it smolders. Midna appears and comments on how it looks dangerous, and cracks a joke about it being a traditional Death Mountain greeting. I then have to re-engage the Goron with another fight. Once we're on its back, it'll launch us up to the next level of the village structure. We repeat this process 5 times. We do have to use the iron boots to walk through a couple of vents of steam, and engage in one final round of Goron throwing, before we're flung to the top level and the entrance. Link finds himself in a room with a dedicated sumo wrestling ring. It's filled with Gorons who prepare to charge him when a voice commands them all to stop. Hey! The voice belongs to Goron, a Goron elder who is short for a Goron. He's bald on the top of his head with rock formations sticking out like tufts of hair at the sides. A rock formation on his chin gives the impression of a goatee. His belly is painted with a purple arch, topped with a pair of concentric circles. The elder explains he currently leads the Goron tribe because their patriarch, Darbus, is currently unable to. Goron states their mines are sacred, and humans will not be allowed entry unless they can best them in a test of strength. When we agree, the sumo match begins. If we agree right away, then we will not have a chance to equip the iron boots if you did not have them on when entering, which I never seem to. If we go into the match without the boots, we're guaranteed to lose. We can refuse the match, equip the boots, then speak to Goron to start the match. Or we can lose the match, equip the boots, and ask for a rematch. With the boots on, we face Goron for real. I had an easier time with this match than I did with the second match against Mayor Bo. and had the Elder out of the ring quickly, at least in the HD version. In the GameCube version, my first match went very poorly, but I had him out of the ring on the second. Having bested the Elder, he agrees to allow us into the mines. He explains they closed the mines and have kept humans away because their patriarch, Darbus, and the Elders went into the mines to investigate after volcanic activity increased with frequent eruptions. The mines hold a treasure the light spirits entrusted to the Gorons to protect, but when Darbus touched it, he was transformed into a monster. The Elders managed to seal him away. Goron now wants us to help Darbus. The guards at the door move apart, and we enter the mines. The Goron Mines are a fire-themed dungeon, naturally. It spans 2 floors. The first floor is roughly shaped like an upside-down L. The second floor is larger. It has a less definable shape. It's like 3 parallel lines of unequal size. There is little overlap between the 2 floors, but a large central room connects them. The dungeon is divided into roughly 4 segments. The end of each segment is marked with the meeting of a Goron Elder, or the Patriarch. Now, that does not mean that the dungeon is essentially a straight line of challenges with no overlap. No, players will find that the path through the dungeon has them crisscross the structure, returning to some rooms more than once, and players will generally have new abilities on a return trip. The music features a light musical percussion that plays an arpeggio. It gives the sense of liquid bubbling through pipes. This is accented by clanging sounds and crashing cymbals. Eventually, the arpeggio suddenly drops out and gives way to deep bass synth choir vocals, in unison with a rather sickly-sounding synth, performing a melody that rocks back and forth between higher and lower notes. Crashing sounds continue to punctuate the piece. It's tense and uneasy. The dungeon is a mine, of course, and the aesthetics are fitting, though not typical. We won't find any mine carts or railways here. Instead, there are large pipes that run throughout, man-made, or I should say Goron-made, structures of metal and wood, including magnetic machinery, obviously used to transport material. Early rooms of the dungeon focus on platforming. Take the first room, for instance. It's long and players will jump rock to cross pools of magma, while avoiding geysers. We also use the iron boots to weigh down switches to shut off giant torches so we can quickly pass by, and then weigh down a switch to open a gate sealing a door. In the second room, there is a large metal structure in the center of a pool of lava. The structure spans multiple levels in elevation. The camera focuses on a crane in the center of the room, which holds a large electromagnet. The magnets are a major theme of this dungeon. However, we can't reach it at this point. We head down to a lower level to grab a key, then head up and follow the path, platforming over rotating platforms to reach a locked door. In the third room, we pull open a large stone door, then platform across pits of lava in order to get through it before it closes. It's beyond this door that we get our first taste of the magnet mechanics of the dungeon. We enter a room with a pool of water. A metal fence keeps us from crossing the water on the surface, so we need to use the iron boots to walk under the water. On the far side of the room is a floor switch. It's underneath a ledge of polished blue stone. The switch seems to send a current through the stone, making it magnetic. Link is drawn to the ceiling by his iron boots. In his 2007 Nintendo Dream interview, Aonuma briefly explained how this mechanic all came together. He said, "We wanted to include a new way to use the iron boots, because we thought it wasn't interesting just to have them for a traditional use of walking underwater. We decided to have the Gorons live in a mine that had some magnetic rocks. You could walk on the walls and on the floor if you got near them. I think, and so does Mr. Miyamoto, that walking upside down on the floor can reflect Link's comic side. I believe that mixing this kind of silly things with very serious ones is typical of the Zelda games. We had many doubts regarding the representation of the magnetic rocks. We tried many looks, but we ended up with a blue mineral. The ledge that Link was attracted to is curved, allowing him to walk over the edge and then end up right side up with the ground beneath his feet. Through the door we meet the first Goron Elder and end the first segment of the dungeon. This Elder's name is Gor Amato. He's small and stooped and apparently volcanic. He has peaked stone growths on his head and back that vent steam or smoke. He's aware Link is tasked with helping their tribe and gives him the first of 3 pieces of the big key. A treasure chest in the Elder's room holds a map. We then climb into the second floor and find Uku in a pot. Then we exit and start the second segment of the dungeon. This segment makes heavier use of the magnet mechanics. We walk across the ceiling of a room with the heavy stone door from earlier. The ceiling has a maze-like path that branches in multiple directions. One branch holds a piece of heart. A central pathway leads to the exit. This takes us to the room with the electromagnet on a crane. We step on a floor switch to activate it. The magnet moves between 3 positions. We use it and a second magnet to reach a high platform that would otherwise be out of reach, and advance. In a room filled with water, there's a door on the far side that only opens if a crystal switch on a ledge is hit. We cannot shoot it with the slingshot. It just has no effect. The slingshot is essentially useless following the first dungeon, likely because it was a last-minute add-on in the development of the game. However, it's clear the developers also want you to solve this puzzle in the way they designed it, because the boomerang doesn't work either. Truthfully, the intended solution is pretty cool. We sink underwater to get into a fenced-in area at the back of the room. We then use a floor switch to activate the magnet and walk across the ceiling to a high walkway. We activate a second magnet and jump from the walkway and equip the boots to be pulled to the opposite wall. Then we walk to the platform which holds the crystal switch. The developers made strings or ropes a focus of the Wind Waker. Link not only regularly used ropes to swing over gaps, but he cut ropes to break bridges, drop platforms, and even fight bosses. Those rope mechanics are largely absent from Twilight Princess. There's just a few elements of it that remain. In the Forest Temple, for example, there's a bridge where players can cut the support ropes to break it. This has no real purpose in the game, but it's there. In the Goron Mines, we cut ropes that hold drawbridges up against walls in order to drop them down. Across the first drawbridge, we find a large outdoor area. These outdoor areas where you can see the sky is something that Aonuma highlighted in his 2007 Nintendo Dream interview. This time there are more open-air dungeons, he said, but it's organized as a dungeon. It has doors and is divided into separate areas. The truth is that it's easy to create closed dungeons like the ones in Ocarina of Time. In open-air dungeons, the relationship with the exterior needs to be more conscious, and it's very difficult to achieve that. Although it was hard, the dungeon team wanted to create things never seen before, and I think that led to the large scale of this game. Of course, these aren't the first outdoor areas in dungeons. Zelda 2 was the first to introduce an outdoor area within a dungeon in the Island Palace. Other examples include A Link to the Past's Desert Palace and Skull Woods, and the Wind Waker's Forsaken Fortress, Dragon Roost Cavern, and Forbidden Woods. Twilight Princess, however, may have more dungeons with outdoor areas than any previous title. We already went outside during the Forest Temple, and now we're heading outdoors again. We have to dodge arrows from the Bulblins as we grab a key from one side of the outdoor area, and then cross over to the opposite side to a locked door. A final challenge closes out the second segment. It involves using the iron boots to cross a spinning bridge with magnetic pads on it. The second Elder is named Gor Abizo. He's taller than Gor Amato, but still shorter than Link as he is stooped with old age. He has only one tooth and long braided hair, with a long goatee that's tied at the end. He gives Link a second piece of the big key. The Elder also tells Link the Gorons hold a legendary weapon which may help him. He tells Link to speak to the guard and claim it for himself. We climb a ladder to an upper door in the Elder's room, then walk across a magnetic wall to reach a previously unreachable door in the room with a spinning bridge. Through this door, we come face to face with the mini-boss. The mini-boss is a massive armored Goron, known as Dangoro. He hasn't gotten the message about Link, and immediately attacks him because humans have no business being in the mine. The fight happens on a circular platform, on a magnetic floor that's floating in lava. The music of the fight features a fast tempo. The militaristic drums and horns play descending melody lines. It's a good theme for getting amped up for a boss fight, and good thing too because this will be the most reused mini-boss theme in the game. The fight with Dangoro is another variation on goat throwing. He approaches Link and winds up to make a hit. Before he throws a punch, we can land hits on him with the sword and make him curl up into a ball. We can then grab him and throw him. The goal is to throw him into the lava. If we succeed at that, Dangoro takes damage. 3 dips in the lava and he falls. Having lost, Dangoro decides to actually talk to Link. After learning why he is in the mine and that he has permission to get the weapon, he allows Link to pass, so that he can get the weapon and save the Patriarch. The weapon is, of course, the bow. We use the bow to cut ropes holding a second drawbridge. We then come to a room with 8 alcoves. Each one has a Beamos enemy inside. We can shoot them in the eye to deactivate them. There are a few that we can move once they're deactivated. In one alcove on the east or west side of the room, depending on the version, we find a door that leads to the 3rd and final Elder. His name is Gord Liggs. He's taller than Link and has a full head of braided hair. Much of his body is painted. He hands over the 3rd piece of the big key, and urges Link on to where Darbus, the tribal patriarch, is held. In the final segment of the dungeon, we revisit past themes from previous segments. We take on a room that's entirely focused on platforming, walk across a magnetic ceiling, and revisit some rooms that we passed through before. That includes the room with the electromagnets on cranes, and the water-filled room with the crystal switch. This time it has giant baby toads in the water that we can easily shoot with the bow. We can also shoot the crystal switch with an arrow. We revisit the outdoor area, and take out a Beamos to open a new path forward. It involves riding an electromagnet to lower a drawbridge. The final challenge of the dungeon sees us lowering a drawbridge to reveal around half a dozen Bulblins that we take on all at once. Once they're gone, we enter the boss room. Inside the boss room we find a shadowy creature. It's roughly humanoid in shape. Its arms are outstretched and held by shackles which hang from the ceiling. Its legs are shackled to the floor. It wears a mask which features a dragon design that covers the top of its head. A crystal sits in the mouth of the dragon. The crystal lights up, revealing an eye shape inside. The creature awakens. Its body ignites in flames. It then breaks its shackles in order to get at Link. This is the Twilight Igniter, Phyrus. The music for Phyrus, for me, is really defined by its quick descending string arpeggios. They are a constant force, giving the music a frantic feel. Horns provide the melody with a similar contour to the B section of Link's Courage theme, the Advantageous theme. We fight Phyrus by first shooting the crystal on his forehead with an arrow to stun him. We can then grab one of the shackles that hangs from his legs, and use the iron boots to anchor us to the floor as we pull on it and make him trip. Once on the ground, we wail away at the crystal on his forehead with the sword. Honestly, I find it pretty easy to prepare a shot and hit Phyrus's crystal as soon as he becomes vulnerable, meaning the boss will spend most of the fight stumbling around and unable to attack. It could be trickier to grab the shackle, but it's not too difficult. I'm not sure that I know all the attacks that this boss can perform. It did not get off a single attack on me when I played on GameCube. In my HD playthrough, it did manage to hit me with a swing of its shackles before I managed to hit it for the first time with an arrow. My gyro was acting a little funny. After that though, my gyro worked fine, and it never got another attack in on me. When the boss falls to the floor, we're treated to the Advantageous theme. After 3 rounds, the boss falls. The crystal on its forehead bursts, producing a heart container. Phyrus shrinks as square particles fly from his body and form a second fused shadow. It resembles the first, practically a mirror image. As she takes the fused shadow from him, Midna says Link has been very helpful to her, so she'll reward him with a story. She tells us the King of the Twilight is named Zant. Midna says Link's strength is currently no match for him. She also says she refuses to recognize Zant as king. Midna slights Zelda by saying, "It appalls me that this world is controlled by that princess. A carefree youth, a life of luxury, how does that teach duty?" But she quickly changes tone. "But I guess I shouldn't begrudge the circumstances of her life. She didn't choose it after all, and I would never wish harm on her." Midna is starting to show a softer side, now that there's only one more fused shadow to obtain. Midna creates a portal to exit the dungeon. The shadowy figure that once was Pyrus has transformed into a large, burly Goron. This is Darbus the Patriarch. He towers over Link with flap-top-style hair and spiky rock formations that run up his arms like gauntlets. He cannot remember what happened or how he came to be in this room deep within the mines. Once outside the dungeon, the spirit Eldin directs Link to head north, past the Great Eldin Bridge, where he jousted with King Boblin, in order to reach the Nehru Province. It's the final part of the kingdom still under Twilight, and it must be freed. As soon as he turns around, Link finds Renato and the kids. Colin is back on his feet, though he is still weak. He tries to limp towards Link, but collapses. Link rushes to him, and Colin urges Link to save Ilia. He manages to get back to his feet and says Link does not need to worry about him anymore. Renato promises to care for the kids, and wishes a blessing of the goddess upon Link in order to tackle the dangers ahead. Next week, we'll face the Twilight in the Nehru Province. If you want to follow along, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, thank you. You are awesome. I really appreciate you. I'm Paul Riley, and I will see you next week.